Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mark from the States. How are we doing today? I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate each and every one of you. Today we got a requested video. It is by HistorySquad. So please, there'll be 2 links below, as always. One to the channel and one to this video. I encourage you to get over there and support Kevin. We enjoy him very much, and so I'm excited when I get to watch one of his videos. This video is titled, "Why Was This Royal Duke Drowned in Wine? George, Duke of Clarence." I don't know anything about this. I know there's going to be some of you who are very knowledgeable in this, and I look forward to the comments or emails that will help me learn more about this subject. As you all know, I learn most in the chat and the emails after I watch the video. I learn a good base during the video, especially if it's on a topic that I don't know anything about, like this. And then a lot of the blanks get filled in for sure and added context, so I love it. So thank you in advance. Hold on. I got the news on up here. Heathrow. In case you're wondering, this is filmed Friday morning. Looks like Heathrow. I have it on mute, so I'm just kind of reading the the wording below. Heathrow is closed. Heathrow Airport is closed because of fire. Well, geez, hopefully everybody is okay. That's like the busiest airport in Europe or something, right? Oh man, that's going to cause a lot of power is out. That's going to cause a lot of headaches. God, I hope everybody's okay. Hope it's not. Well, I don't want to go there. Hopefully it's nothing man-made. Hopefully it was an accident. Yeah, closed. All flights have been diverted. Whoa. Okay. Well, definitely keep an eye on that. Where am I? I think I'm going to do a live stream on Sunday. I'll go ahead and set that up after the video. So if anybody wants to come by on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon your time, to come say hello and check in. We can chat for about an hour and a half or so. That would be great. But let's get into today's video. I got a big fake couch here. It's big and it's fake, so you can bring and wear whatever you'd like. No judgment over here. So today's video, again, why was this royal duke drowned in wine? George, Duke of Clarence. Let's do it.
Hi, my name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to the History Squad. Now, today's video has been voted in by my Patreon members. Hey, guys, thanks a million. This is all about George, Duke of Clarence. Born 1449 in Dublin in Ireland. He was the second son of Richard, Duke of York. So he's born into the Yorkist family, the Yorkist cause. Now, Richard, George's father, was killed at the Battle of Wakefield, 1460. His head apparently was severed, cut off the dead body. A false crown was placed on it, and then it was put onto a pike and displayed over Micklegate Bar, one of the entrances to York. So let's see how the brother of the King of England came to be drowned in a vat of Malmsey wine. Was it lawful execution or was it judicial murder?
Oh.
This whole story.
I just noticed that he's got this This little setup over here behind his left shoulder. Oh my God.
Is a plot fit for Shakespeare. Oh, he did. He wrote all about it. So let's dive in and see what
Shakespeare
happens.
wrote about it? Okay.
From the age of 11, George had titles heaped upon him and granted lands, the most important being the Duke of Clarence. But he could not claim any of the finances, any of the income from his lands because he was in his minority. He was still a child. But at the age of 17, he came into his majority. And the first thing he did was move to his castle, the castle at Tutbury in Staffordshire, a place I know quite well. He formed his household there, which was said to have been one of the most extensive and expensive of the age. He had 399 staff, get your head around that, a cost of 4,500 marks per annum. His allowance from his brother, who was now the king, was 3 times the minimum for a duke. But this was still not enough for George, Duke of Clarence, with all of his plans. But what George needed now was a wife. He needed a duchess.
Of course.
Now, George, Duke of Clarence, when it comes to finding a wife, has a bit of a problem. He's a duke, so he can't just marry anyone. It has to be a diplomatic union. So the King of England, Edward IV, his older brother, suggests, why don't you marry Mary, the daughter of Charles the Bold, the Duke of Burgundy? What a fantastic diplomatic match that would be. But unfortunately, George, Duke of Clarence, had fallen under the influence of his first cousin, none other than Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, later known as the Kingmaker. Now, Richard Neville suggested, why don't you marry my daughter, Isabel? She's lovely, and it would unite our families. But the king forbade the match. Neither Clarence nor Warwick were going to accept this, so they had secret negotiations for a papal dispensation, which was actually granted. And George and Isabel were married in Calais on the 11th of July, 1469. This was the first act of resistance from George, Duke of Clarence, to his brother, Edward IV, King of England's authority.
Yeah, probably not a good choice there.
This was the time
George.
in England known as the War of the Roses, that terrible civil war between the House of York and Lancaster. Now, the Duke of Clarence had become more and more influenced by the Earl of Warwick. Clarence believed that he was due more power and financial reward from his brother, Edward IV. Now, between the years 1469 and 71, Clarence changed sides multiple times, and he backed the Yorkshire rebels, which led to the Battle of Edgecote Moor, where the Yorkist forces were actually defeated and Edward IV was imprisoned. But when it was realised there was scant support, little support for the Duke of Clarence or of the Earl of Warwick, Edward was released and resumes power. Somehow, the Duke of Clarence and the Earl of Warwick convinced Edward, King of England, of their loyalty towards him. But at the same time, they were orchestrating yet another rebellion. But this time, it was with a view to replacing Edward IV with his brother, the Duke of Clarence, as king. These men were so duplicit, they even persuaded King Edward that they should be given a commission of array to raise troops on the king's behalf.
Come on. It's hard to imagine that the king is buying into all this, right? I mean, he is his younger brother. You're thinking, well, family loyalty, which I'm guessing wasn't really a big thing back then, by the sounds of it. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the cynic in me, I guess. I would think, how are you, after what you've already witnessed with George, can you really trust him? Why are you giving him the ability to raise an army? You wonder.
But the rebellion failed. At the Battle of Loosecoat Field in Rutland, after the battle, the baggage train was gone through and letters were found implicating the Duke of Clarence and his involvement in the rebellion. So Clarence and Warwick have it on their toes. They have to flee. They take a circuitous route, shall we take, around the Yorkist forces and eventually set sail to France. And here is tragedy. Because the Duke of Clarence had his wife with him, Isabel. She was heavily pregnant, and just off the coast of Calais, she gives birth. But they're not allowed to enter Calais. They're refused entrance. So they go down to Le Havre. Meanwhile, the baby dies. While in France, Warwick negotiates with the King of France, Louis XI, securing support and being allowed to raise troops. In fact, he's raising an army. It's at this time that Clarence realises what Warwick's ambitions really are. They're not to put Clarence on the throne as King of England, but to reinstate Henry VI as the King of England. And around this time, he receives correspondence from the ladies of the House of York, urging him, come back into the fold, rejoin us, support your brother. But in the meantime, he stays by the side of Warwick, and Clarence is there when Warwick successfully invades England, and Henry VI is reinstated as the King of England. He actually has...
Wow. That's... Well, I mean, you got to give it to the brother, I guess, Edward, that, I mean, it's family. You're hoping for the best, I guess, but you got... There's really... Of course, we have the privilege of hindsight to be able to see, well, of course this isn't going to work out. My goodness. Crazy.
Henry VI is reinstated as the King of England. He actually has a second coronation. But this has really put out the Duke of Clarence's nose. His nose is well out of joint, and leads Warwick to believe that he's loyal to him. And he plays an absolute corker here, with Warwick believing that Clarence is on his side. Warwick delays his advance through the south of England, believing that Clarence is going to bring in 4,000 reinforcement troops. But in fact, what Clarence does is he leads those troops north to Coventry and hands them over to his brother. So the brothers are reunited. The Duke of Clarence now will sit strongly by the side of his brother, Edward, King of England. With those 4,000 troops bolstering his army, King Edward can now move south and engage the Earl of Warwick's forces. They meet and clash at the Battle of Barnet. George, Duke of Clarence, fights alongside his brother Edward during the Battle of Barnet, and he's actually wounded. However, the Earl of Warwick is killed whilst trying to make his escape on his horse. You'd think, wouldn't you, after everything that had gone on, the invasion of England, the Battle of Barnet, the death of the Earl of Warwick, that magnate, that there would now be peace and harmony in the House of York. But no. George, Duke of Clarence, falls out with his brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester. It's all over the division of Warwick's lands, the Neville lands. And it's a real row, and it's quite bad. But in the end, the king himself, Edward, has to step in. But no, Clarence wants more. And in the end, he is put in his place. The king stamps his feet and punishes George, Duke of Clarence, by confiscating Tutbury Castle, his beloved house, his home. He is now forced to go and stay on his wife Isabel's estate, Warwick Castle. And here, tragedy. Isabel gives birth to a child, but she dies shortly afterwards. And George, Duke of Clarence, believes that she had been poisoned by one of her servants, Anchoret Twinehoe. He has her abducted, indicted, convicted, and executed all in one day. These are false charges. it was an absolute abuse of power. It's more likely that poor Isabel died from the after effects of childbirth, not being poisoned. After the death of the Duchess Isabel, the Duke of Clarence is eager to remarry. He sets his sights on Mary of Burgundy, the girl that King Edward wanted the Duke of Clarence to marry in the first place, but now Edward vetoes the marriage. Now the king and Clarence really do fall out, but not face to face. They shout about each other in their own households. Servants can hear everything, but it comes to a head when one of Clarence's retainers is accused of imagining the king's death by necromancy, witchcraft. He will be executed along with one of his co-conspirators. Now, although the Duke of Clarence wasn't actually implicated in any of this, what happens next is ridiculous. So I understand. The Duke of Clarence bursts into a meeting of the Royal Council at Westminster Palace and demands that the statement of innocence that had been read aloud at the scaffold when his retainers were executed be read to the council. When the king finds out about this outburst, the Duke of Clarence is arrested with regards to matters in contempt of the law of the land. But eventually, George, Duke of Clarence, is put on trial and found guilty of treason. Now, this business of the trial of George, Duke of Clarence, none of it is straightforward.
Before we get into that, I mean, wow, such a turn of events there. Him turning on the Earl and the Kingmaker, and he ends up dying in battle and trying to escape, I guess. He's wounded fighting with his brother Richard. It's also confusing, as like most of the kings are to me, but Edward is now king again, and he's somehow welcomed into the fold there, it sounds like, or at least tolerated. King then takes his castle. He's upset. Once his wife dies, he's obviously grasping at straws, trying to blame that she was poisoned. I'm sure childbirth was a very dangerous activity back in the day, right? And then wants to marry the original girl that he wanted to marry way back when. And that was said no. Edward said no. So now he hates Edward and wants to ruin him. They shouted at that was pretty funny that they cursed each other's names in private or on their own. I thought that was kind of funny. And now he was arrested and found guilty of treason. Whew. He had it. The Duke of Clarence, George, had it. If he would have just made the right decisions down the road a while back, he could have had a pretty good thing going. But he got greedy.
And if you remember, at the very beginning of this film, I asked you, how come the brother, the King of England, came to be drowned in a vat of wine? And was it legal execution?
Yeah, an odd way.
Murder. You see, the Duke of Clarence had discovered that Edward's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville may have been illegal. Edward, so it seems, may have had a pre-contract with Eleanor Talbot, which means it was a promissory of marriage. If that was true, then all of Edward's children would be illegitimate.
Oh, no.
And the next in line for the crown would, of course, be George, Duke of Clarence.
Yeah,
now,
imagine
some
that.
dispute this, and it was never proven. But when you consider the trial was prepared by the Queen's family. And if the Queen really did regard that the Duke of Clarence was a threat to her family, he needed to go.
Yes, he did.
Witnesses to the trial were shocked at the spectacle of the king and his brother, the Duke of Clarence, arguing and in dispute in open court. And they were also concerned about the procedures in the court, where witnesses were also acting as prosecutors. Many of these witnesses were not convinced of the guilty verdict. Was it a setup? So, George, Duke of Clarence, was executed for treason at the Tower of London on the 18th of February, 1478. It appears, however, that he was neither hanged nor beheaded. It's believed that he was forcibly and slowly submerged in a vat of Malmsey wine at his own request.
What?
You see, George did enjoy a glass of Malmsey wine, and he died with the sweet taste of that wine upon his lips. You know, he's buried at Tewkesbury Abbey, and it was a fine funeral. He's buried next to his wife, Isabel. But later on in history, his body was exhumed and examined. And indeed, George, Duke of Clarence, had not been beheaded. But it would appear that his skull had a smile on his face. Mind you, most of them do, don't they?
Oh my God.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that
I
video.
did.
Not exactly the barrel of laughs, but if you did enjoy it,
This is pretty
like,
good.
share and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel further, why not have a look at joining our Patreon community? The link is in the description. Now, before I go any further, a quick shout out to some of our Patreon members.
So he's going to go there. But yeah, go support Kevin. It's important that you get over there and support Kevin and his channel. Links are below to his channel and to this video. I encourage you to go watch the video again, please, if you haven't already. But crazy story. Now, as it came full circle, yes, I have heard of Duke of Clarence. I remember the story of. I don't remember the wine. That I don't remember at all. But when I've watched videos on the Tower of London and all the things, the shenanigans that happened there, I do vaguely remember the name Duke of Clarence as one of. But the whole story of the king and his brother, and how he was able to get to the point. I mean, he could have, if he would have just chosen a different route, seems like he could have really had a pretty good gig going on there. But, and of course, this is all during the War of the Roses period. So, yeah, interesting. It's so much to know, so much to learn. A lot of these characters, real life people, obviously, are interwoven with so many different aspects. It's just, it's wild. It's wild, and I guess it's not entirely set in stone. That's how he was asked to exit stage left in a vat of wine, but that's pretty interesting, to say the least. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, go support Kevin. It's real important that you do. This is such a bizarre story. There's just so many things to it of just backstabbing, and it's hard to grasp how it is able to go on and doesn't get stopped before. But it's kind of comical in some ways. I hope you really enjoy that. Please get over to, again, if if you have one like and one subscription, go give it to History Squad. They deserve it. Kevin works hard. He does a lot of work, so he deserves our support. And I hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. Live stream Sunday. I may do a video tomorrow as well, depending on what's going on. I hope you have a blessed day, and we will see you in the next one. And of course, prayers are going out to the people affected by this fire that is happening at Heathrow. Hopefully no one's hurt, and hopefully it was just an accident, and hopefully they get it going. It seems like there was a fire that started kind of at a power station a little bit of ways, not in the actual airport, but off a little bit away from there, I guess. I don't know. Keep me posted. All right, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark. Yeah.